Hey, what's going on, everybody? Here we are in episode 2. Welcome to the podcast, We the People. Here with Frank the Bank himself and myself, your favorite realtor, Carlos Rojas here, talking about the local market. We did do an amazing episode 1, and I would love to invite everybody that hasn't seen it to go back and check it out. We did get 10 subscribers from that, which, it's our very first episode, so I'm really happy about it.
That's a good start, man.
Yeah, man, and we're thankful for you. If you subscribe to the channel, thank you so much for doing that. As well as everybody that hit that like button. I think we had about 17 of those. So the little things, the little things that get us to the next level. And
That's right.
Again, this show is to inform you, the people, of how to get to the next level in business, the next level in real estate, understanding mortgages, and who else but Frank himself to teach you about some of these amazing topics. We got so much experience here. Not trying to call you old, Mr. Frank the Bank here, and as well as me, I'm fresh and new, but I also have some experience. I've been in the business for about 5 years, and I've been buying and selling real estate since I was 21. So
I was gonna say you've been in the business a lot longer than 5 years.
Right. I do feel that way.
Oh,
for sure.
you definitely. I've known you longer than 5 years. you have buying and selling real estate. I would almost say Carlos is paramount to being a real estate agent.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
Don't you think you learn more by actually doing the transactions
Absolutely.
than signing the papers?
Absolutely. I mean, talk about the school, right? Like
Right.
everything that they teach you in school and then put it into practice is not really like much.
Right.
You learn the laws, you learn how to not get in trouble. But besides that, the actual practice is when you get out there in the business and do the work.
Yeah, that's the real experience.
Yeah, man. So let's start, guys. And just like I promised you in the last episode, every week we're going to start with the rates. And this week we got a little surprise for you guys. We actually dropped in rates. So let's take a look at where we are right now. According to Google, this is the same thing that you guys do. If you Google mortgage rates, you're going to find this right here. Okay? Which, as you can see, it dropped. It dropped a few points. We're looking in the 7s here for Google. So, Frank, what does this mean to you when you look at this? Again, I know, last week we spoke about how you could get better deals for the clients.
Right.
You could definitely do better than that again, but even better now than what you talked about last week, I would say, right?
Yeah. So Carlos, I've got mixed feelings about what I'm reading on the screen right now. So
Okay.
the first feeling that comes to mind is that of happiness, and that's we both were like, yeah, rates went down, which it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right. It feels good. It's like, yeah, man. And what were we? I think we were 8.08 last week. So, I mean, do your math. We're down a tiny bit, but it's kind of impressive because now it's under 8%.
Right, which feels good to your eyes when you actually see the first number change.
It's like that old trick of you charge $9.99, not
right.
$10. You're like, oh man, no, I saved a penny.
Yeah.
So the first feeling is good. Rates went down, but then because I live in this world of mortgages and rates every single day, the other feeling is a bit of despair because I know that those are not what the actual rates are today.
Yeah.
Right. But again, it's kind of, I guess it's kind of nice. I'll be honest, after doing the podcast with you last week, I used that Google that you pulled up multiple times with multiple clients, but I used it in a different way. I didn't use it like, hey, look, here's what the rates are. I used it to say, I'd like you to look and see what are the rates today according to Google, according to the biggest name out there.
Right.
And then when they pulled them up and they showed 8%, and then I showed somebody an interest rate quote last week of like 7%.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it made me look really good, right?
Yeah.
So here's the reason I don't like this. Today's rates, the real rates on the 30-year fixed, if you work with a wholesale company and not with a bank or a retail company, the real rates are 5.75 and 6.75. Now, what they're showing on the screen was the conventional interest rate. That's the prevailing rate. That's not FHA. That's not government. That's conventional, which is generally a little higher. They're showing 7.9 something. Today, conventionally, you could lock 6.75. Now, you are going to pay a little bit of points with it. So then everybody asks, what's the rate without points? I would generally say it's about half a point higher, maybe 3/4. So even though these guys are at 7.98, without points with us, you would be at about 7.375, something like that. So still significantly better. But the good news is the media is starting to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
When that happens, that's good.
And, I do this on purpose, right? Because this is what I did. When I was buying my first house and I wanted to know what rate I would get, And then, come to find out, my rate was actually lower when I bought my first house.
It's good news.
And it's kind of the same for everybody. It's, unless you ask the banker directly, and obviously if you ask somebody else that is not Lincoln Lending,
Frank the banker,
still gonna be higher, right? But the point is that if people out there, instead of getting, the actual information from the people that are working in the industry, if they're just searching Google, which is what most people do, right, 100%. To get information, they're gonna look at this number and they're gonna get discouraged. They're not gonna want to, proceed, or they, which is not right. It's kind of like the fake news, idea.
It is, and that's why I keep saying that even though you and I, the professionals, know what the rates are, until the media gets out there and says it, we're not going to feel that impact in the market yet.
Right.
So shut that off. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. So with that in mind, we're always going to do this. We're always going to show you what Google shows you, and then we're going to talk about what Frank can do for you guys here. And yeah, just as always, if you want to buy your next house, if you're ready to make that move, contact frankthebank.com.
Oh, man, you remembered it. I picked a good website.
Easy.
That's an easy one. Yeah, contact frankthebank.com, and it's not going to make you go through a whole application. It's just a basic little data capture form that's good. You're going to tell us what you're trying to do so that myself or one of my experienced originators, when they call you, will be experienced and ready for the call with the information you want.
Right. And if you're watching this video right now and you want to go there right now, it's on the description as well. Beautiful. As well as realtorcarlosrojas.com if you want to take a look at houses, if you want, to start the process of your house search, or if you just want to have a conversation with either one of us, we are available for you.
Yeah, that's the best thing about us is it's free.
Yeah.
Right? You pick up the phone, talk to us. You're going to get some advice, and we're going to figure out what you can do.
Come to find out there's people out there that charge for this. I found that out last week. I didn't even know
that. There really are. There's still companies, Carlos, that charge people an application fee. I haven't heard that. Like 10 years ago, I thought we got rid of those. But $500 to really $500 for me to send you my business?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. But, it is what it is. Now, Frank, I wanted to ask you a personal question. I do want people to kind of like get to know you a little bit better, as well as myself. Okay. I'm not what I'm about to ask you, but I do have aspirations of getting there.
Okay.
And I look at you as one of those people. So I've always thought that you're a millionaire. I don't know if you are or not, but in my head, I'm like, this guy got money, like, just and one of the reasons why I respect you so much has to do with that. Besides who you are, really, which you're a great person, you're genuine, you talk very well, which is, for people like me that English is the second language, I can see things in you that I really admire, and I want to kind of like emulate and copy a little bit,
Right.
So are you a millionaire?
All right, I'm going to turn it around and ask you a question before I answer that. What is a millionaire to you? Let's define a millionaire.
To me, a millionaire is somebody that has an abundance of money, enough to, whether it's assets or whether it's actual cash in the bank, or, whatever investments you may have, that is more than $1 million worth, as it stands now in today's market.
Yeah.
Right. And basically, one of the reasons why I want to be a millionaire is because I want the freedom that it comes with. I don't necessarily care about the money word per se, but it does bring so much freedom. Like I want to maybe retire in less than 10 years.
There you go. Okay.
Just so that I can spend more time with my family, travel the world, learn about, new things. And when I say retire, it's a little funny because I don't know that I will actually ever retire.
That's why I wrote that down when you just said that.
Because I don't know, I feel like there's always something for me to do. And, for example, like this podcast, it just took one decision. I've been wanting to do this for a while. I think since a couple of years ago, I told you we're going to be doing this.
Yep.
And we're finally here doing it.
Exactly.
And, it took a lot because I was so busy with so many other things. But finally, I said, you know what? I'm just going to throw all my money at this equipment and get this shit done because I want to do this. And it takes one serious decisions for one to make. And I made the decision. I don't only do this podcast now. I got one in Spanish, Reato Carlos Rojas. That's out there that you can just search and it'll be my Spanish content. Only got one episode on that. Got my second one coming out today. And then we also have a Potash podcast, Potaje, which is basically, Potaje is like the amount of things that you throw together to create this amazing Spanish Cuban dish.
Okay.
And it has a little bit of everything, whatever people could find in Cuba.
Are you gonna bring one of those in
the
sometime?
Pornes. You know what? I might just
You got to
just
do that.
Yeah,
We're
I
talking
might just do
about
that.
it.
Yeah.
You know.
But the point is we called it that, and it's just me and my friends talking about anything. You know,
Yeah.
I throw a little bit of real estate in there. You know, whatever we boys talk about every now and then. So
Like we do.
It's a little funny and it's entertainment and it's a lot of things that not everybody will talk about. But the point is that I made the decision, I did it, and I ask you this question about being a millionaire, not from I know there's a lot of people out there, and I don't know why people do that. It's like I saw this podcast the other day where somebody was sleeping in the gym basically. I forgot his name, but I saw his podcast and I admired it so much that he said this. He was talking about working his way up. He's a millionaire now, but before he was sleeping in the gym. He got rich with a business idea of personal training in the digital world. And anyways, the point is that before he got rich, he struggled. He was he didn't have a home. He was basically homeless, and he went through a lot, but he believed in himself. He fought. And there were people that would kind of like tell him, hey, man, good job. Keep it going, like when he was down. And then all of a sudden he made it. And now those same people are like, hey, man, don't forget about the little people, and talking shit about him instead of, I don't know. To me, I look at people that have wealth and, my first thought is not, oh, that guy was probably born rich or,
Right.
that kid right there's lucky or that person's lucky. Like, to me, it's hard getting there, but it's also fun, like.
The journey is half the fun.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I don't know if I'm going to get there, but I feel like I will.
You will.
And besides that, I just look at people that have that abundance or that freedom. And not only that actual free, like the when you say the United States is free,
Right.
I see you, and that's why I love you in this show, because we the people, right, of the United States, I feel like you are so free. Like, you say what you want, wherever you are, what you talk out of your mouth is things that you actually believe.
Right.
And I'm the same exact way. No matter what level of income I may have, I feel so free, especially coming from Cuba, a place where my
definitely.
parents weren't free. My brother wasn't free. He had to cross the ocean in order to have this freedom, right? So that's why I ask you this question out of respect, not to put your business out there, but I do want to know your story a little bit of if you are, and even if you're not, I know you got to be close at least. So tell us a little bit of whether you are or not. Since you asked me, what is Millionaire to you, and are you that? And if you don't mind sharing, how did you get there? And
That it's funny is I've been doing my radio show for 9 years. I've been on countless shows. I've never been asked that question ever, anywhere. And so,
welcome to the realness.
Welcome, welcome to a real
We the
podcast.
people.
We the people. No, so we're gonna get real. So the reason I asked you what you define as a millionaire is because I think most people have different definitions of millionaire, and I'll start by answering the question yes. All right. So I think by pretty much every definition you could give, I thankfully I have reached the goal of being a millionaire. Okay. But it's kind of funny, Carlos, because it's not like one day I woke up and I'm like, I'm a millionaire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was a time, I will not forget this, when I was in my bedroom and I had some investments and a bunch of, kind of things kind of came in at once, money in, money out, whatever. And all of a sudden I looked at my Regions bank account online, and how it has the balance up top. It was more than $1 million.
Yeah.
And I remember that day, and I remember taking a picture of that and being like, oh shit, like I'm a millionaire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but let's take a step back because you're asking like how you got there and what did you think? Well, when I founded Lincoln Lending Group with two partners back in 2003, whom, by the way, I bought out in 2006.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't know about these partners.
No, you don't know. Thank God. So listen, a little business advice, by the way. Starting businesses is tough. Starting businesses with partners does make it easier. So I'm not discouraging it with whatever I'm saying here. But I have learned over 24 years in business that you don't really want partners. So if you can do it without partners, it's way easier when you wake up and make the decisions and you don't have to have other opinions. But I started the company with two good friends of mine, a fraternity brother and another guy. And Nick, who was the MBA financial major, financial guy who started the company with us, I went to school with him. He had a plan for us. and his plan was to make us all millionaires. And the way he defined it was millionaire via equity in real estate. Okay, that was my first like definition starting a business as to where my goal was to be a millionaire. Well, that's just a paper millionaire, right? And that only does so much for you. His plan was for us to collectively buy at least 10 homes and rent them out. And then we would have eventually we would have $100,000 of equity in each one of these homes. So just do the math, 100,000 times 10, you have $1 million of equity.
Yeah.
Technically, you're a millionaire. Now, if I'm splitting it with 3 people, I'm not really. I'm a 300,000aire, right?
That's a nice way.
But right. But there's that. That was the mentality. Was you create wealth by having the equity. But just like I'm doing a loan right now for somebody who's worth over $60 million, the person is taking money out, borrowing it from a piece of real estate because have you ever heard the term cash poor? You know what I mean?
No.
So cash poor is the term. Like you can be extremely wealthy when it comes to assets and real estate and stocks,
but you don't have cash.
But you don't have cash, or but you have a lot of tangible assets. So
isn't it scary to have cash in the bank in terms of taxes and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's you got
to play a little bit of a game.
Yeah, for sure. What scares me more is I hate to say is like the uncertainty in the world and the government and everything is your money in the bank is only FDIC insured. I think up to like $200,000, and that's per bank, I believe it is, or something per account, but it's not per account. You can't have 5 accounts with 200,000 and you're protected. It'd have to be split up. But anyway, so going back to the definition of millionaire. So, there was a time, I did buy a lot of real estate back in the day. I used whatever I had to do it. And by the way, I did not come from family money. My family was middle class. My father was always self-employed. He was he worked for the government, and then he ended up opening a private detective agency. It was 50-something years ago, and always busted his butt. I remember, I'd see him in the mornings, kind of like my kids, and then, he'd get home later at night, usually after 7 o'clock or so. My mom was a teacher and then went on to become an assistant principal and retired as a principal for the Hillsborough County school system.
So thank you to her, because teachers are much needed.
Talk about underpaid. Right?
For
nice that they get pensions and stuff now, but my mom put 40 something years in or 50 years in to get this. But my parents did work hard enough to pay for my college. So thankfully I came out of college without a lot of debt. So that was, I could say, a leg up, right?
Yeah.
But when we founded the company, myself, Nick, and Dan, we didn't have a lot of money. We founded the company with very little money. We didn't have a ton for advertising. So it really was sweat equity. We worked hard. I did, in my first 10 years, bought, some real estate. But again, I didn't have a lot of money. Eventually I'm sure I had, probably close to $1 million.
Before you continue,
go.
What led to the idea of what told you, you know what, I want to open up a business with these people? It was their idea?
Oh, great question. Okay, so I worked as a mortgage broker. So I graduated Florida State. I came out of school. Actually, Nick graduated a semester before me. I might as well tell the story, right?
Yeah.
And he was looking for a job in business, and Tampa was an emerging market. This was 2000, right? Year 2000. And he calls me. He's like,
so did you, in school, did you learn about business? Or did you learn everything during doing the business?
Doing the business.
Okay.
100%. So I was a sociology and communications major. Now, sociology is the study of people, right? And how people react and work with each other, and how the world interacts with people and whatnot. That's sociology. So sociology is great for business, okay? Yeah. But it wasn't a business degree. And then communications, obviously communications is good for communicating, right? For sure. That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I wanted to go into radio and TV. I wanted to be a news anchor, a broadcaster. And I'm gonna say it very bluntly. I'm gonna tell the listeners exactly what my professor said. So I had this professor my senior year, and we got to know each other a little bit. And after class, we're chatting, and he said, he's like, yeah, Frank, he's like, I know you want to go into broadcast, right? You want to be an anchor. He's like, I think you'd be good at that. I was like, yeah, man, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, you got the voice.
Thank you, right? I got the voice for the face for radio. But so I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And he's like, well, where do you want to live? It was a weird question. I'm like, Tampa. And he's like, oh, so you want to make a lot of money? And I'm like, yeah, because he knew my ambition, right? I'm like, yeah, man, I want to make a lot of money.
Where were you at?
Florida State University.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So I live in Tampa, going to school in Tallahassee, Florida State. I always hustled in college. I always had some sort of side hustle. I mean, I used to sell airheads and magazines and stuff when I was in junior high and high school to kids. You can see that's my type guy,
that's
right?
That's where you really learn business.
That's where you really learn business, right? You got to protect your backpack. Yeah. But anyway, so he asked me these questions for a reason. He then tells me, he goes, man, listen, I don't want to burst your bubble. He goes, but it's going to be hard for you to make, as good as I think you are, it's going to be hard for you to make it back to Tampa and do what you want and raise your family there. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, Tampa's like one of like the top 13 markets in the country. He goes, I'm going to be blunt. If you want to go into broadcast, you're going to end up in BF, Ohio or Oklahoma somewhere in some tiny little town nobody's heard of. You're going to work around the country, if you're lucky, for 10 years. His exact words were sucking your way to the top. Okay. Damn. And I'm like, ugh, I don't do that well. So I know, sorry, listeners, but that's literally what my professor said. So, and he goes, and you might eventually make it back to Tampa where you want to be and raise your family, and maybe you make it, you know? And he goes, by the way, you're also going to make nothing for probably the first decade of your life. And there's no upside in broadcast. It's not like I'm out selling the space on TV, getting a commission. And so it made me think of something that my mom was dating this guy at the time. And they were telling me, this guy was a salesman his whole life. They said that sales is the highest paid position in the world. Salesmen make more than CEOs a lot of times. And I'm like, that's interesting. And I know how to sell. So fast forward, Nick graduated a semester before me. He's looking for a job down here in Tampa. Couldn't find anything in quote unquote business. So he calls me up. He knew my family was fourth generation Tampa. He's like, dude, you got to know somebody. Like, who can I get a job with? Hook me up with somebody. And there was this guy, Paul Urbanski. I'll give you a shout out, Paul. He owned Avail Mortgage since the mid 1980s. Remember we talked about savings and loans in the last show. So this guy owned, that's how I know about that. He started the company during that time and we worked for him. So I told Nick, I said, go talk to this guy. He's a mortgage guy. I didn't know really much about mortgages, Carlos. So Nick did, and he got a job with Paul. And Nick called me 2 months in, and his exact words were, they're effing printing money down here. And I'm like, printing money? What? So I decided to go into mortgages. I came out of college. I went into mortgages. Nick was a smart guy. I was a smart guy. We started working under Paul and his nephew. And then our friend of ours, Dan, started working there. It was about a year and a half in that we went to Paul and we said, yeah, you know, Paul, we have no processor helping us with the paperwork. We're sharing one computer. We've got a 1985 fax machine that had those little ribbons you tear the stuff off on the side. Remember those little things? You're just a little old enough to know that, right?
Yeah, I know.
So I'm like, Paul, listen. And this was, by the way, Carlos, this was a refi boom. This is when the rates were going from 9 down to 6. So everybody was going crazy, which is coming. And we said, Paul, we can do it better. Like there's another way to do this. We need a processor. We need another computer. We need another fax machine. We just need some resources.
You need systems in place to
just
do it
like what's
better.
in this studio, right? You decided, hey, I'm going to buy these things because I'm going to go to the next level. We just said, Paul, buy these things to get us to the next level. He looks me in the eyes and he goes, I'm thinking about retiring in a few years. He's like, I'm not really, this isn't something I want to do. And I'm like, Paul, I'm talking about making you more money. Just make an investment in us. He goes,
dude,
right? He goes, now, I think Paul was partially being a really good friend when he did this. I think this was a 50-50. I don't think he was being a total jerk because
right.
He looked at me. His next words were, you should invest in yourself, Frank. And I said, what? And he's like, why don't you guys do it on your own if that's what you want to do? And at first we were kind of taken back, like, dude, Paul's being a jerk.
Yeah.
But looking back on it,
that's the best thing.
Dude, he kicked us out of the nest. You know the old saying with the bird, right? Kicked us out of the nest. So Nick and Dan and I decided we were going to go for it. We opened a little net branch of Challenge Mortgage through a title company owner. Gave her title business. She let us build our company through her. A year later, we didn't even have a lot of money still, but we had figured it out. Sweat equity.
Yeah.
And we founded Lincoln Lending Group in 2003.
That is so awesome.
Crazy?
If I may interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
Dude, that reminds me. So you see this McDonald's that's right here in Osmar?
Yeah.
That was my very first store that I ran as a GM.
No way.
Yeah, that's where they
Like
promoted
right here?
me. Right here.
Okay.
And then from there, I went to, me and my wife have a background with McDonald's and Casper's company, which Casper's has already sold all of the McDonald's back to McDonald's recently. Yep. Yeah, this past year. Here's the thing. That story reminds me. When Casper saw the way that I was working, not Casper's, but, the vice president, the people under him, saw the way that I handled this store right here. I manage a total of 4 stores. So when he saw what I did with this little store, this store was dead when I took over it. It was so slow, but there was 1 hour that it was like rush hour, and it was from 12 to 1.
Okay.
It's like every little business that was around Osmar, and back then Osmar was not as big as it is now. And Osmar is still not huge.
Right.
But the point is that I saw so much opportunity because it's like I needed 20 employees during that hour, but I could only afford 10 employees for the rest of the hours for the, for everybody, for everything else in terms of labor, right? So when I saw that during that hour, we could not give enough clients, their food on time, and I saw cars actually driving off the drive-through, I was raging. I was like, I gotta do something about that. So I started copying the Chick-fil-A model, put somebody out there to take, orders, and
no, I don't think you copied the model. I think it sounds like you actually made the model back then.
Dude, well, back then, Chick-fil-A, the one over here in Waters, I saw what they were doing, and I'm like, well, they're getting cars in and out real quick. So I had to create one for McDonald's that wasn't invented, one that was our own.
Right.
And I started putting people out there and just taking orders. I think it was by paper, and communicating it through the headset to the person inside so that they can put it in a computer, because we didn't have a kiosk to put that thing in.
Right, you didn't have an iPad? What are you talking about?
Right. So, dude, I started doing this and started breaking records for that store, the numbers that had never been seen in that store. Within the first 6 months, they promoted me to another store, made another $10,000 a year. By then I had my free car, free cell phone. I'm over here like, that's how I bought
I made it.
That's how I bought my first house with that income.
Yes.
And I was 21 years old, and I remember I was like fired up with success. You know how like drugs are addictive, people, but success is more addicting than anything else. So, which is where I like to push young people to, like, just focus on success, be successful, right? So that reminds me. So I managed 5 stores. Ended up making a mistake with Casper's, got fired out of there, which is the best thing that ever happened to me at the time. I didn't know, because it gave me some deep depression at the time.
Right.
But I went to work for another company. Casper's, when he saw what I did here, dude, he's like, I'm like, I need to spend like $40,000 in equipment and stuff. Like, any store that I will get to, I need to spend this much.
They would do
Go ahead, Carlos, go for it, because they know I'm about to make it back within a month.
Right.
I'm about to make that money back and more for the rest of the year.
Yep.
So they saw that potential, which as a business leader or owner, you better allow those people, those individuals that work under you that are that great, to have the freedom they need, because if you don't give it to them, they're going to go find it elsewhere anyways, right? Isn't that how it goes?
You're speaking to me in a way you don't even know. A conference call I just got off of walking in here was about that. I can't talk about that call. But I'm just going to tell you what you're saying is resonating very well, because
dude, so
investing
your
in yourself is important.
Your story is kind of like, it's so funny. Like, it happened to you somewhere else, and it happened to me somewhere else. So I go work for another company, another McDonald's company. I come in there with all my ideas and everything, and my experience of everything that I've done with this business that I know for a fact. Like, I'm sitting down with millionaires that are owning McDonald's, multiple McDonald's.
Right.
And I don't look at money. I don't care how much better you are than me in terms of your financials or whatever. I'm just giving you an idea that's gonna make you more money.
Right.
And in return, I want to make more money too, right? Because that's how we grow. One day I wanted my own McDonald's. That's the way I thought about it.
Yep.
And dude, this guy cut my wings so quickly. It was so like as soon as I told him all my ideas, I don't know about that, Carlos. This store doesn't make that much money, and blah blah blah, and this and that. And then I told him, listen, man, I've done this before. I did it, and then I went to another McDonald's and did the same thing. The one right here that's owned by where your office is.
Okay.
I think it's Elias.
Elias, yep, Elias Group. Yep.
Cuban people.
Yep.
All right, Cuban owner.
Yep.
The son, Colombian, whatever. Not to talk bad about them, but they cut my wings real quick, and so much to the point where I was like, fuck this business, man.
Yeah.
Like, why am I, like, I'm trying to make these people money, and they see me as no, you're not really gonna do that. And I don't understand. I didn't know how else to explain it. It's like I'm drawing you a perfect, situation for you to follow, and you're still not getting it. So how are you a millionaire and you're not getting this shit? And here I am, not having the income that you have, and giving you this amazing idea. It's going to make you more money, and in a short time too, because I'm not telling you you're going to get your money back in a year. I'm telling you you're going to get your money back next month.
Yeah, just because you're a millionaire doesn't mean you're smart.
Dude, so I was so disappointed. Literally, when my wife got pregnant, I quit. I literally walked out of that job, and that's where I decided, you know what? I'm going to go into my music business, my music career, and that's where I attacked that, and later on ended up with real estate. But it's funny that you said that, because it's like, I'm pretty sure that everybody that ever entered the sales world or the business world with all the crazy ideas that run into your brain about how to be more successful, eventually hit a wall where you're like, you know what? I got to do this myself, right? Which is what happened to you. But go ahead and continue, you know.
No, that is what happened. And I'm glad I got kicked out of the nest. Started the company. It was also, you also have to remember there's another thing in business. It's called timing. You know, I'm sure you've heard the saying, like, I think like the vast majority of millionaires are made during hard times, right? Because the hard times is when you can invest and nobody else is investing, which, you know, I will say the mortgage industry is very slow right now. I mean, most mortgage companies, including us, you know, you're down 30, 40, some are down 50, 60%, right? If you can survive this and you can invest in yourself and invest in your company, what's on the other side is exponential growth, right? When these rates come down. So going back to the story, long story short, on the business part, I bought out both my partners 2006 and 2007. So that's why you have never met them, because this was so long ago. You know, it was almost 20 years ago now. I bought them out, and I've ran the company by myself ever since.
At this time, how much was your company making yearly around that time, and how much did you buy your partners out for, if you don't mind me asking?
Man, that's a great question. So
I'm sorry, man. I like numbers. I like to know where you're at.
I like telling the story. So Dan and I bought Nick out for $6,000.
That's great,
right? Nick, there's a funny full circle to this. So Nick, that to him, that was like the worst investment that's ever happened to him, because you know the company went on to be worth millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I don't see as Millionaire necessarily because you own a company that does millions of dollars. That's a whole nother thing. You got a real estate company and then you got money. And I'm going to get to all this so you explain how I look at it. But Dan, I bought out a year later. Dan was a little bit more of a forced buyout. Dan and I had accumulated a few rental properties together through the company. So when I bought Dan out, it was kind of weird. I took the company debt. So I took on like $35,000 of credit card debt and other company debt. Yeah. And excuse me, I gave him 2 of the rental properties and I kept 1 of the rental properties.
So Lincoln Lending had rental properties as well
at the time. Yeah.
Does it still? Do you still run it that way?
No,
okay.
No,
so you just keep it.
And I'm gonna bring you into that real quick.
Ahead.
So I bought Dan out. You know, everything's fine. You know, the good thing is we remain friends. Now I'm going to say something to all you business owners with partners, or if you're thinking about starting a business with partners, this is probably the most important piece of advice I could ever give anybody. If you're starting a business with partners, you need an exit strategy from day one. In writing, signed, notarized, an attorney involved, whatever. And I don't care how good of friends you are. I don't care how best friends, how long you've known each other. The one thing that will come between you is money and business. And very lucky for Nick and Dan and I, we were all friends. Everything ended mostly amicably. Like Nick is still, he's a hunting buddy of mine. We still hang out all the time. I still chat with Dan. We have no negative, but it could have gone the other way. And a lot of times it does go the other way. So you need to have it in writing how you're going to end the business and end the partnership. Or you also have to have this in writing for, God forbid, somebody goes down in a plane crash and they have family and kids. Like what, how does that work? Who takes over? I partnered with you, Carlos. I didn't partner with your wife. Yeah. I didn't partner with your kids. Think about that in business. Okay. So we fast forward to, you know, I was not a millionaire back then. Okay. The company, you said, how much was the company doing in revenue? Not a ton. I want to say under $500,000 of revenue the company was doing at this time. And the other thing about having partners is we were splitting the revenue 3 ways. So if we made $300,000, that's $100,000 each, but not really, because you have expenses. I mean, you had $10,000, $15,000 a month in expenses, so you're not making that anyway. So this was approaching now. Funny story is I bought the company like in the beginning of late 07, beginning of 08. What happened in 2008, 9, and 10? The world ended. We had the crash. We had the recession. So people are like, dude, you bought a mortgage company then? Yeah. I would never go back and do that.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. But had I not bought out my partners, I don't think Lincoln Lending Group would be existing today, because I was able to go thin. I was able to cut staff. I was able to cut expenses. I was able to be very flexible owning the company by myself. So I eventually rebuilt the company, you know, continued working hard, rebuilt it in 2010, you know, started rehiring, had a bunch of people. The millionaire status, I got to say, came probably in the late 2000 teens, somewhere in there. And it was a combination of a lot of things. But one meeting I had many years ago was with a private money lender lady named Mary. And private money is, you know, you're lending out your own money. You're charging your own interest. You're charging your own points, your own commissions.
This is the one that they use for investing,
This is what they use for investment. Matter of fact, next week we could do a whole show on private money if you wanted to explain how that the investment loans work. That'd be a great show. But to not make this too long, private money, it really intrigued me. This lady allowed me to lend her money. She had a couple $1 million. And when I came across a deal that nobody would do, we would use her money to lend it. She would make 12% interest and she would charge a point, and then I could charge points as a broker. So I'd charge 2, 3, 4 points on her money and I would continue to lend it. Well, one day she took me to lunch.
So to understand this right, you were using her money to lend it to other people?
Correct.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So okay, like this.
I never thought about
so
that.
Carlos, you're gonna love this. So you're the realtor, right?
Yeah.
Just like back in the day, you bring me a client. We can't get the client through an FHA government conventional loan or anything, but this client has a bunch of money. He's willing to put down a big down payment, and it's an investment property. I would go to Mary and say, hey, Mary, the guy's got 100 down. It's a $300,000 property. Seems like a good bet. His credit's okay, but here's the reasons he can't get the loan, whatever. And she'd write him a private note, right? And she would make this return of her point plus her interest. And then I would make a brokerage fee and I would charge it. So it was awesome. Well, one day, Mary takes me to lunch and when we're talking about, her lending, she's like, Frank, you got any money saved? And I'm like, not really. I got like $20,000, maybe 25 grand. She goes, why don't you start lending it like me? And I'm like, Mary, what am I going to do with 25,000? She's, Frank, you got to start somewhere. You got to start with something. And this is a great advice for the listeners and everybody. This is the roadmap to becoming a millionaire. I'm going to tell you right now, this is an absolute guaranteed roadmap to becoming a millionaire. You have to start somewhere. Just like Carlos bought the equipment, just like I opened the mortgage company, you have to start somewhere. So I started with 25,000. Somebody actually requested about 30,000 next few months. I lent the guy 25,000. I made $250 a month on the 25,000, which was 12% interest only. I charged the guy 5 points. That was like $1,250. When the loan paid off a couple years later, I had like, I don't know, $35,000 or something like that from the payments. And this isn't perfect math, but then this is called compounding. And in that time frame, I had saved another $15,000 or $20,000. So I remember my next loan was about 50 grand, right? Follow the math. Then I'm making $500 a month. Now I'm making $2,500 on the points because the money's bigger, right?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, another year or so later, I'm lending 75, 80. I put all of my savings, my extra money into this account that I kept to the side, and I would make the interest and the points from these loans. I would not spend it. Key word, guys. I was not spending it. I was living off other money because I was making a mortgage. I had a job, right? I was a mortgage broker. I was living off that, but I wasn't spending this investment money. And the money just started accumulating. Now you have to pay taxes on the money. Okay. You're paying your regular income tax unless you have an IRA or 401k. You can do it through there. It's a whole nother show. We'll talk about that next week. Okay. But I was compounding this money. So follow this math. Eventually you get up to $1 million. Okay. Now, $1 million at 12% interest is $10,000 a month. Okay. And you're charging 5 points on the $1 million. Well, what's that? $50,000. Okay. So if you do one loan at $1 million, you make 50 grand up front, and then you're making 10,000 a month. And that loan, let's say, goes for 12 months. Let's do some math. 12 times 10 is what? 120 plus 50. You just made $170,000 on $1 million, Carlos.
Damn.
You see how the rich get richer?
Yeah.
That's how they're doing it. They're lending the money, or they're compounding their investments, and they're continuing to do it over again. In a few years, let's say, I don't know, 5 years, somebody just taught me the rule of sixes the other day.
Did you ever have like issues with people paying you?
Knock on wood. No, I didn't. But it's because,
Is this because
I
you
lent my money
choose
right.
good people?
You choose the right people.
Did you interview these people?
Absolutely.
Or?
Well, you know what I did? I took a mortgage loan application. Here's the beauty. I'm a mortgage guy. So I ran their credit. I looked at their income. I made sure that they had the ability, it's called ATR, ability to repay. You make sure that they can do that. The other most important thing you're doing when you're lending private money is you're lending with the right amount of equity. In the beginning, I wouldn't give people more than 65% of the value of the house, maybe 70%, right? Because I don't want to be risky. During COVID, I had like 15 loans out. Not one guy even paid late. because there's some other rules that we'll teach people next week about how to choose the right people and what to lend to mitigate the risk. But
y'all better watch this episode next week.
It's good.
I'm asking the questions. This is great.
You're gonna love it.
I'm holding back right now so you can finish your story.
Hold back for next week. So anyway, just kind of rolling into the becoming a millionaire and stuff. Yes, I have real estate now. You have to use the word net worth. All right, millionaire or not, the key is, what is your net worth? If you have a house that's worth $1 million and you owe $800,000 on it, are you a millionaire? No. You're a 200,000-aire, but not really, because you don't even have that money. You're going to sell it with car loans. It's going to cost you closing costs and all this stuff that's going to come out of your proceeds. So, long story short, no, is that me or you?
I think that's me.
Okay.
Keep going.
So anyway,
oh,
good. So yes, I like to define a millionaire as somebody who has not just a net worth of $1 million when it's your real estate versus your assets versus your liabilities. I like to say the person as a millionaire has the ability to get to $1 million. You got to be able to touch $1 million, whether it's through stocks you could sell or other investments that are be turned into liquid money. That defines a millionaire. Something you said, go ahead. Something you said earlier about millionaires and working and stuff like that. I made this little note on my pad. I feel like millionaires work longer in their lives. Like you talked about retiring. Why would somebody who is just managing their own money ever retire, right? If you're just managing your money and you're looking for another deal or another investment, you don't need to retire. You just keep stacking money and keep enjoying your life. The one thing I will say is I'm comfortable. I'm happy where I am in my life. I'm comfortable. Could I retire by the standards of probably 90% of people in the country? Yeah, I could retire. But why would I do that? What would I do?
Yeah.
I'd rather continue doing work with you and managing my money and finding investments. So what happens is when you become wealthy and you have this money, you get to now make decisions. That I think is what you're talking about in the happiness and the freedom. Actually, you use the word freedom.
Yeah.
The freedom is what you get from having the money in the bank from the ability. But you remember Puff Daddy, more money, more problems, right?
Yeah.
Listen, more money, more problems.
I know.
Okay, it is a stressful life to manage the money and to have all these irons in the fire and stuff. So never stop working. Keep your nose to the grind. Invest in yourself is the best advice I can really give people. Investing in yourself.
Man, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, man, that was a long way to say yes. But there's so many different facets.
Well, I think that story will help people, man. I really think everybody that made it. So some people make it in a nasty way, and some people get there and they're not happy about it either. Like, I mean, some people give up a lot of important things, and like in terms of that decision making, for example, some people lose important relationships, important friends.
Family time is a sacrifice. I will say that. The one thing I wish I could get back is some time spent with my kids when they were younger and things like that, and that is very true.
I try my best to tell in all three of my podcasts. Young people, man, if you don't have kids, it's so much easier. Don't go to that party. Don't go to that club. What do you end up doing after 10 o'clock at night outside?
Nothing
you get
good, bro.
in trouble, man.
You get in trouble.
Like, we've been there. We've done it, right? You spend more money. You get into more debt. Yeah, it's fun. It's good, but there's a lot of fun in business, man. And you can get there, especially during sales, car salesman, real estate, mortgage broker, anything that has to do with sales. You can get to the next level. The money is there. There's plenty of cake for everybody. You just got to do the work and get there.
You ever heard the term dink?
No.
I learned the term after I wasn't a dink. So I'm going to tell everybody, since you're giving them advice, what a dink is. It's dual income, no kids. Okay? I didn't know what a dink was until I wasn't one, until I had kids. But if you think back, the most profitable time of your life, the time that you can earn the most money and you can make the most moves, is when you have two incomes in your household and you have no children.
Yeah,
I
agree with that.
Time and you have money.
Yeah.
That's when you need to start investing and start putting your money out there to work for you.
Yeah, I had my first kid at 25, man, and I, ever since that moment, everything hits you different. So first, you get a lot more motivation to make more money because you want more time and more freedom. One of the things that was important in my family unit was, at least for me, is can I give my wife the freedom to take care of my kids? Because this daycare thing is, it's optional if you really think about it. Can you get enough money to, have your wife out of work if this is what she desires? Obviously, because there's mothers out there that maybe don't want to take care of their kids. Maybe they want somebody else taking care of their kids, and that's acceptable. But in my family unit, I really wanted my wife to be the mother of my kids, to be there. And this was her choice. She asked for this. And I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to do this. And through real estate, I was able to do it. And I'm so glad that we are, because even though I probably would have been a millionaire already with the ideas that I have and everything, that, it was too late by the time we have kids, and the amount of time that I have to sacrifice out of business so that I can actually enjoy my kids, coach them, be around. I'm a soccer coach.
That's
I'm
awesome.
doing podcasts. I'm doing real estate. It's not easy. I used to think about, I don't have enough, like, I got all this time and I don't even know what to do. And now, like, there's not enough time in a day.
Oh, no. Time is money, too.
Dude, I want to do so many things, and I really have to simplify them down to the things that will give me the most results outside of my family time, outside of my coaching time with my soccer club, which, by the way, we won a first game.
Nice.
Dude, I was so pumped. Last minute goal. It was so amazing. And it's been a hard season all season long. So it was one of those,
That's awesome.
bad news bears type of season where everybody was sucking. First year as a coach with the soccer club, just met these kids, and I knew it was coming, man. Like, I could see it. These kids are so good. They just needed a little bit of good coaching. And between me, Rebecca, and Ty, our newest coach right now, that work under me, and we've been really drilling down on these kids, and they actually saw the result, and it felt so good. But yeah, again, thank you for sharing that. That was amazing. I really hope you guys took notes on that, because it could be your life. It could be, a moment in your life that you're at right now. And again, if you're young, go for it, man. Stop playing around with your time, because 10 years go by like this. Like, I know I was, 21 the other day, and now I'm 34 years old. You're talking to Frank, and it just goes by really quickly. And once you have kids, it does feel a little bit too late. So try to take advantage of it before you tie yourself up, in marriage or with kids, as it is the best time to make it, for sure. Besides that, we're just gonna talk real quick about this new situation happening in Pinellas County.
Yeah.
This is eye-opening. Frank just mentioned it to me, and I know you guys are gonna take advantage of this. If you live in Pinellas County, listen up. This is very important info right here. Go ahead, Frank. Let us know about this ADU.
All right. So ADU stands for Accessory Dwelling Unit. At the beginning of this year, Pinellas County did something unprecedented. They reduced the setbacks on all the properties in Pinellas County to allow more density. What does that mean? They know that the prices of homes in Pinellas County are very expensive, and it's limiting the amount of people who can live there, rent there, buy there, whatever.
If I could jump in on that
Please,
real quick. Guys, I have a bunch of people that have bought properties and have issues with exactly what Frank just said right now, especially in Tampa. People that buy a property and they want to add a second home to that property or a second unit, and they can't because of the setback, the flood zones, which are a little bit make it harder on that setback as well. The setback is basically the space that you have between your backyard fence or your backyard line, right?
Yeah, from your property line to your house.
Property line all around the perimeter of your property to where your house is. So basically, you need enough space, enough property around your dwelling in order to be able to build another unit.
Yeah, they want. I don't remember the exact rules. That's why but we are doing a seminar. I'll mention in a second on January 30th at Pinellas Realtor Organization Pro, where the county will be there, and they will tell us the exact dimensions. But let's say the old setback was 15 or 20 feet from the property line before you could have a structure. Right. The new setback, I want to say, is like 5 feet. Okay. This isn't the perfect math. We'll get you the right numbers. But you see what that's done is that's allowed you to put a structure closer to the property line, which means in most houses you couldn't put something in your backyard. Now you can. Yeah. Okay. So ADU is accessory dwelling unit. What's special about this is the county is now allowing it, but then you got to get one built. So it doesn't matter if you're buying a new house with Carlos or you own a house and you want to put these in there. For example, you find the perfect house you want to live in, but you'd love to have a mother-in-law suite in the backyard, 2 bedrooms for your mother-in-law, or to rent out to Airbnb to make some passive income, right? So you buy the house with Carlos. We do a special renovation loan as the purchase loan. So the house, let's say, is $400,000. It's going to cost $100,000 to build the ADU. We set your loan up at $500,000. You put your 3%, 5%, 10% down on $500,000 instead of putting it down on $400,000 and then having to come out of pocket $100,000 to build the ADU. So basically, we're allowing you to build this with just 5 or 10% of whatever the total purchase price is out of pocket, and now you're creating revenue. We also allow you to use the proposed revenue from that proposed structure being built to help offset your debt ratio for your mortgage to qualify.
That's crazy.
It's crazy what we're allowing on this. But
so let me ask you this. So what if you're already a homeowner and you want to build that? Are you able to get that loan as well?
Yep, same thing. Same renovation loan.
So
or
guys,
you can do a cash out refi.
Yeah, so just so you know, in my experience, most people that try to do this, they have to do it with cash.
Yep.
They have to get a private loan, or they have to figure it out in ways that are nearly impossible for a lot of people. So this makes it so much easier.
Opens to everybody.
Right. It's and you know, just thinking about the history of real estate, that goes in so well because if you're like, how did Miami get built? How did this get built? How did this cities get built? Very true. But in terms of the city allowing you to do some of these things, right? Mm-hmm. The moment the city does this, it means more people are going to be moving into the city, right? It's like a bunch, like imagine if, 100 homes are doing this at once, you're going to add 100 dwellings to existing properties that are already there.
And guess what? That's more tax for the city.
Yeah.
It's more growth. By the way, that is what Miami did. Miami changed all of their zoning rules and everything and decided that they were going to allow the city to blow up with the cocaine money. But and it did. I mean, Miami's a beautiful city now.
Yeah.
But no, guys, it's let me tell you about the seminar real quick. It is at Pinellas Realtor Organization Pro. You can find it on their calendar. Should be up on their calendar now. It's going to be at 2:00 on January 30th. Pinellas County will be there. They will be talking. We will have a builder there who we've partnered with who can do all the plans and show you everything about the ADUs. And then I'm going to be talking about the financing as well. And there's also going to be a realtor talking about the real estate side and how that would work. But it's going to be a great seminar for agents to come to learn about, buyers, regular guys.
Yeah.
Show up and
I'll
learn.
be adding this to the description as well. So no worries there. And then Frank, the other part is the I lost my train of thought.
Let's see. We did rates. We have a seminar tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. The one
so
tomorrow.
if you're watching today on Tuesday on our brand new show, tomorrow we are having a lunch and learn at Greater Tampa Association of Realtors, GTAR, on Kennedy from 12:30 to 2:30. We're going to be serving Tijuana Flats Taco Wednesday, 12:30 to 2:30. And what I'm going to be presenting on for 2 hours are the most creative and innovative loan products to help you as agents find more buyers without finding more buyers.
Right.
And what I mean by that is everybody's a buyer.
So So that event specifically for realtors?
Realtors, yes.
Okay.
That is a realtor
so I'll
event
be
or
adding
mortgage
that,
originators.
I'll be adding that. It's at Eventbrite, right?
Yeah, it's on Eventbrite. Yep.
Okay, I'm going to add that link to the description as well, guys. So if you watch that, make sure you show up. And this is
by the way,
for
if
today,
it
guys.
shows
Go ahead.
full, text me directly. We'll put my number in the link.
Yeah.
And I will open up a spot for you.
Sounds good. So, guys, we're out here. Episode 2 done. Great information. Make sure you check out episode 1, which was amazing information. Subscribe, share, like. We're here out working, giving you the knowledge that you need in order to grow in this business world, in this real estate mortgage world. So we need your help as well, okay? And this is how you can help us. Share, like, comment. Let us know what you want us talking about. I mean, the amount of knowledge that Frank and I have here in this business world is immersed. Like, we could talk for hours and hours. So what do you want to learn about? What do you want to know about in terms of this type of business so that we know what you people want to, learn about so that we can go ahead and provide you with that knowledge. Frank, thank you so much for coming in again. And guys, we'll see you on the next one here next week. And all the information that you need on the description. Much love. Take care.